Coming to you from McCurdy's Comedy Theater in Sarasota, Florida, it's the Open Bar Comedy Show. Here's your host, Ron Feingold.
Hi, everyone. This is Ron Feingold. This is the Open Bar Comedy Show. We do not believe in censorship at Open Bar Comedy. Our comics can say anything that they want as long as it's funny. That being said, one of my favorite comics that I've ever met while doing my travels 34 years on the road is a guy named Rex Havens, and he is here joining us today. Thank you so much, Rex, for coming to Sarasota and the Open Bar Comedy Show.
Great to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
We worked together maybe 25 years ago, like in a Muller gig or something.
Many miles, many moons ago.
It was literally a Best Western, I think.
That's the thing to me with comedians is you may only spend 4 or 5 days with somebody a long time ago, but that 4 or 5 days really cements a nice friendship.
Yeah.
And you can see each other 10 years later or 20 years later, and you can kind of pick up right where you left off.
Yeah.
And I've seen your name 1,000 times, and I thought to myself, what a good guy. I hope he's doing well, and hope I run into him someday. And then this came around, and thank you.
I remember going to your house. Where in Illinois was it? Like Springfield or something?
Bloomington.
Illinois.
The Bloomington area.
Yeah. I was playing a place called the Tree House.
There you go.
And you invited me to your house. And I remember I was like 23, 24 years old. And I remember going to your house and calling my wife afterwards and like, babe, this guy has a house. He has a house. I mean, that was how different you were to me because that was the dream. You had a wife, you had children, and you had a damn house. And that was a goal. I was a poor, struggling road comic. So to see that, I mean, you started out as a lawyer, am I right?
You had to tell them that?
Yeah,
you you felt obligated to tell them that, to blow that.
No,
and there's nothing like having the audience, having 50% of the audience hate you before you even say hello.
If you can forgive yourself for being a lawyer, what kind of law did you practice? That was before your comedy career.
I started off as a college professor. I taught business and law, and then I was a corporate lawyer for 15 years. God bless everybody who enjoys it. It wasn't creative in the kind of creative way I wanted to be. Mm-hmm. And so I started hanging out in seedy comedy clubs with seedy characters like yourself, and fate threw me, I guess, just enough reinforcement that I got excited about it. Mm-hmm. And I was living in Central Illinois, and I kind of got a foothold. I won a couple of local contests there in Central Illinois, and then the next step would be to go to Chicago and try to climb the ladder at some of those clubs. So that's what I started to do. I would go there at night, get home at 2 a.m, get not enough sleep, go be a lawyer during the day, then drive back up to Chicago. It was a 5-hour commute.
Wow.
Total to do that, and you would do that 6 nights a week sometimes. And then climb the ladder up there, and finally, after it was 7 years of doing that, that I was finally doing well enough in comedy that I could quit the day job. And we said to ourselves, all right, let's give it a couple, 3 years and see what happens. And lucky for me, that was over 25 years ago.
That's great.
So it worked.
Yeah. And you've also done motivational speaking as well.
I don't know where you got
speaking. Were you a speaker?
No, I was not. I was never.
Your son is, though.
Never a motivational speaker. My son is.
Your son is the motivational speaker.
My son has several speeches that he gives. Mm-hmm. One of which is motivational, and others on different topics. And I kind of explained the speaking world to him, that corporate speaking world. I had people from the corporate speaking world try to encourage me to have a message to my speech, and they say, we can get more money for you, we can you'll make more money, how about that? I thought about it for a while, and I thought, no, you know what? I'm addicted to that sound people make when they laugh. Mm-hmm. I didn't get into this business because I thought that I was going to be a movie star or a sitcom star. I could look in the mirror and go, yeah, that's probably not going to happen for you. But I've always been just addicted to that wonderful sound people make when they laugh. That was my drug, and that's what I was chasing. So I just said, no, you know what? I'm happy right where I am. I'm doing fine where I am. I'm not going to go do that corporate thing. But I explained it to him as he was coming up, and he ran with it. And now he makes more money than I do, and I love him for that, and I'm proud of him for that. I said that to somebody, though. I said to somebody, oh, my son makes more money than I do. They go, whoa, that must hurt. No, that doesn't hurt at all.
Wonderful.
That means he's not living in my garage, you know?
That's right.
It means he's self-sustaining. He doesn't need anything. He's wonderful. He's successful, and I'm happy for him.
It means you did your job.
I get to do what I like, which is, I mean, that's a gift from the heavens, for crying out loud, that you get to actually do what you like. Growing up, I didn't know that. My head was not filled with this idea that you should do what you enjoy. Work was kind of a bad word. I mean, you're supposed to work, and you're not supposed to like it. And I didn't think that the milkman enjoyed delivering milk, and I didn't think that the mailman necessarily enjoyed delivering mail. But that was a job, and that was work, and that's what you did so that you could get through life. And so when I started being a lawyer, I thought, well, you're not supposed to. I don't really like it, but you're not supposed to like it. It's work, and it's supposed to be distasteful. You're supposed to have to fight your way through it. And then I found the world of comedy, and I realized it is possible. If you're lucky, maybe you can like what you do.
Well, you were saying that you didn't have lofty aspirations of being a movie star or anything like that, but what were your goals in comedy?
To not put a suit and tie on and go back in that office.
Just no matter where I had to go, as long as I could go make people laugh, that's fine no matter where.
Yeah.
As long as I don't have to put that suit on, go to a cubicle, have meetings with people I don't like.
Yeah. I did that. I served my time, but I just didn't want to have to go back and do that. And as long as I was, still keeping the wolf away from the door, telling my silly little stories, I felt like I won.
Do you have a greatest accomplishment that you've achieved so far? I've always wanted to work with X.
I got into it later in life, so I never went to New York or L.A. Because I figured I was probably too old for that. They probably weren't going to do cartwheels over me in New York or L.A. because they're looking for the next 23-year-old Adam Sandler. They're not looking for the next guy my age.
Yeah.
And the phone was ringing, and I was working, and I knew so many guys that went to New York and L.A. and made no income. They still had to go to Kansas City, and they still had to go to Minneapolis on the weekends to make a living, and I was already there, and it was a lot closer. And so I just thought realistically, I was doing well, the phone was ringing, I was working a lot, I'm just going to stay here. And again, as long as I can keep this as my job, I'm a happy guy. I think so I never tried out for the Tonight Show. I never tried out for any of those late night shows. I didn't figure that was probably going to happen, and I was fine with that. Probably the biggest thrill I had professionally was getting to meet. You get to meet some of your heroes, and the biggest one for me was getting to open for the Smothers Brothers one night.
Awesome.
And sometimes you meet one of your heroes, but you don't get to actually meet them. I mean, you work with them, but you don't get to meet them. Like I opened for Ray Charles, but I'm on this side of the stage, and I come do my thing, and I go off, and then he enters from that side of the stage. His dressing room's way over there, mine's way over here. I was opening for Ray Charles, but I never got to meet him. With the Smothers Brothers, it was so terrific. I got like an hour before the show in the same dressing room, and Tommy Smothers and Dick both, they were just the most warm, wonderful, kind people. They actually asked questions. They wondered about my stupid little life, and I got to take my copy of Mom Always Liked You Best and have them sign it.
Oh, that's great.
And and that really tugged at my heartstrings because we lost Tommy just last month
Les McCurdy, who is very good friends with Dick here. Dick, I believe, has a place here in town in Sarasota, and he's a frequenter here at the McCurdy's Comedy Theater.
Oh, cool.
So, and Les was very close with them.
They were just the best. They made meeting them everything that you could have hoped for.
That's great when your heroes turn out to be that. Because I remember when Gallagher was one of my heroes, and I was told, never meet your heroes. And he was around the corner one time. I was in Pensacola, and he was around the corner playing. And I said, man, I really want to go meet the guy, but I was told not to. And, I was told he was kind of an asshole sometimes. He had issues with people. And if you've heard a lot of interviews with Gallagher, a lot of times he had issues with his interviewers or issues. He's just kind of bitter about comedy in a way. So I've never met the guy. I don't regret it.
Yeah.
But I did get to meet George Carlin a few years before he passed.
Oh, wow.
And he was just super duper nice. Everything that I was, he was a lot more humble and laid back and quiet than I thought he would be.
Where is that? Where was that?
That was in Orlando at the Bob Carr Theater backstage, right after Dennis Blair went on, who Dennis Blair also has done a special with us. But anyway,
good.
So as far as censorship goes, how do you feel about that? I mean, you're a clever comic. You really don't go into much profanity or anything like that. But I mean, how do you feel about the art of comedy being censored?
Well, I do a lot of private events, and I always talk with these clients before these private events, and I try to get a feel for what they want. Now, about 80% of them don't want to offend the most offendable person in the room,
Right.
which sometimes winds up being the 90-year-old man or 90-year-old woman that's in the back of the room, and we don't want to make him or her get up and leave. And I look at being able to do a different kind of a show the way I look at a musician who knows how to play in more than one key.
Yes.
If I'm asked to do a G-rated show, I learned how to do that. I know how to do that. I always say that my I loved them all. My aunts growing up taught me where the line was. At Thanksgiving and Christmas, when you'd get together, when you'd cross the line, you got one of those. And that okay, all right, that went too far. That was not G-rated. And then so you kind of creep up. Can I get away with this? No, I can't get away with this. Can I get away with that? Okay, that one's all right. I always say that they taught me where that line was between G-rated and the next step up. But then 10% of your clients will say, no, PG-13 is fine. And then another 10% will say, no, we want some R-rated. Yeah, give us that kind of stuff. And we've all got... We are all hit with funny thoughts. All comedians are hit with funny thoughts all the time, and we have no control when they hit us, whether they're G-rated or R-rated. Some of the most hysterical thoughts I've ever had are R-rated, and I know I can't share them with a certain crowd. But you still enjoy them, you share them with your family, and once in a while when you get a client that says, let her rip, you pull it out.
Yeah.
So
the joke.
So I always say it's the offendable people in the back that we don't want to upset, that kind of control things, and that's probably too bad.
Yeah.
But I do understand, particularly in a corporate setting, not wanting to make somebody thoroughly enraged by. You know what? I thank them when they bring me into their convention or whatever. I thank them for having the courage to bring in a comedian because it's more dangerous.
Yes.
That is more dangerous for your crowd. You are far safer bringing in a polka band. Everybody will be bored to death, but nobody will be pissed off.
There's not going to be any complaints afterwards.
No, that was the most outrageous polka band I have ever. They were positively obscene. Nobody's ever going to say that.
Do you have a favorite joke of another comedian, or maybe even yours? I mean, just one that is just your favorite joke that is a go-to. What is your favorite joke?
Mine was actually mentioned in Playboy. It was from a comedian named Rich Brown, who was from Chicago, who said, I was a wrestler in high school. I wasn't very good. I usually gave up right after I came.
Well,
wait a minute. There was one I heard on an amateur night.
Okay.
And this is not G-rated. One I heard on an amateur night in Madison, Wisconsin. And you know what it's like to be in the back of the room and listen to amateur night. And it's a lot of bad stuff. And then there might be this one gem.
Yeah.
And there was this one gem. And this guy goes, okay, my friend and I, we like to talk about who in history you'd want to make love to. And somebody say Cleopatra, and somebody else might say Helen of Troy. But for me, it was Molly Pitcher. And Molly Pitcher was in the Revolutionary War, and if you don't know her story, she would bring pitchers of water to the men on the front line as they fired their muskets. And when her own husband went down, she took his musket and fired away at the enemy. Plus, I hear she does anal. How did you think of that?
always an amateur. Will just
Completely.
out of nowhere.
Oh God! I wonder where that guy is right now. I'm sure he's not a full-time comedian,
No.
but 20 years later, I'm remembering one good joke that I heard that night.
Well, on the Open Bar Comedy Show, we always like to have fun with fun products. And what we've been experimenting with over the past few weeks is ball hammock underwear. And if you don't know what this is, there's about 6 or 7 companies that are out there that have created inside the underwear a hammock for your balls, and it separates and lifts and everything like a bra would. So we got the company is called Shinesty. And this has been the one out of all the companies that we have done demos with is the best company that we worked with because they've created amazing ball hammock underwear, great technology that goes into it, and I've used them and it works. It's amazing. I love it. I feel like I have a push-up bra for my nuts. But they also sent us some stuff that was free, and their marketing is so great. Now check this out. It kind of looks like hot dogs, but if you look closer, all of the hot dogs are in some kind of sexual position. Look, this. If you look closely here, look at this one.
Oh yeah, okay.
This one's getting ketchup and mustard squirted on its ass. How awesome is that? So they're our cup of tea. So anyway, just to show you what the ball hammock is like, this is where you place your boys. And I found out, by the way, that after a shower, you got to place your boys inside the ball hammock thing there, an old guy like me, because, you got the shrivel effect. But if you're warm, I'm just saying temperature is an issue with this, because if you're warm and your guys are dangling, then you can easily place them in here. But after a shower, you got to place them in there, and then they just kind of melt into place. It's awesome if you wanted to picture
Those are going to sell.
These are amazing.
Those are going to sell.
There's all kinds. If you're even at a loss for sexual positions, you could look at your underwear here. So here's another one that they sent us that I thought was just amazing and so fun, which is, these are glow in the dark. These are stick figures, again, in sexual positions. We got doggy style, we got missionary. Oh, this guy's blowing them right here. Look at that. Oh, bulldog. Anyway, so they glow in the dark though. So if we were to turn the lights off, these stick figures would all be glowing in the dark. And again, the great ball hammock technology. But these ones are one of the best that I've ever seen. These are great. Can you imagine just walking into the bedroom with these guys? Oh,
whoa.
Yeah. Hot diggity dark. Good on you, Shinesty. So, well, let me put a little bulge in that for you. So that's the way.
Right.
Kind of.
Right.
There. So anyway, and again, the same ball hammock technology there. So guys, go to shinesty.com, put in open bar 10, all caps, open bar 10, no spaces, and you will get a special discount from the site. And you can try this out yourself. If you're curious, I'm telling you, try out this underwear. It will change your life. It'll change your balls' life. Both of them. So, that being said, now the thing that I told my wife, you don't know this, and I don't want to embarrass you or put you on the spot, but you're like a hero to me because you have a family, and that was the thing that I always wanted, as a comedian, was not only to be a working comedian, but one with a family. And your son became, part of the business in a way, like as a speaker.
Yep, and so did
your daughter.
Actually, all 3 of my sons.
You don't have a daughter. I'm sorry.
No, all 3 of my sons are in the speaking business.
All of them.
Yeah.
What do the other 2 talk about?
Well, Jeff is the older one, and he, like I say, he's got 4 different talks. Adam was the second son, and he works behind the scenes, web, graphic design, print, audio, video. They together have created a video series, training series for the corporate world that has taken off just wonderfully.
Awesome.
And then the third son, Matt, is a speaker, and he has developed 3 different speeches that he gives to the corporate world.
And just talking about business and
they talk about things like change, motivation, teamwork, those kind of things. The things that the corporate world is generally looking for when they have their sessions at their conventions.
you had a corporate talk, but you were all entertainment. You weren't really content oriented, were you? Or did
Right.
you do that?
No. I didn't have a content talk. All of mine has been, hey, look, on that one night in the convention where you just want to sit back and you want to kick back and forget about all the training and good stuff that you've been hearing all week. You just want to sit back and have some laughs. Then they bring the idiot in. Come and tell my stupid little stories.
But do you still maybe do one-nighters every once in a while? Like if somebody offered you...
Not very much.
Okay.
Not very much.
So it's been a long time since you've done a club, maybe?
It's probably been a year since I actually did a club.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I remember, man, this was a good 25, 30 years ago. You had this cool bit. You're far from a prop comic. You weren't a prop comic, but you had one prop. Which was the signs of all of the cities, and you would flip this thing. It was kind of like cards that you had for all of the cities in the state that we were in.
In that state,
and it was so brilliant.
Well, I only came up with that because in those days I spent so much time in my car, and all you had, your company was your map.
Yeah.
That was over here, and I thought I've got all these hours. It's just me and the map. Is there anything I could make from that? And so I would just stare at it. I would pick out every city that I thought I could work into a funny sentence. And I would usually come up with about 100 cities in that state that I was in. And then I would go that night and I would put them on cards. I even remember it took about 6 hours each time to work up and get it ready and to go. And then that night you would go and say, the cities of your state have been talking to me. They've told me this story. I would like to share the story with you. First, let me tell you what some of the towns made the list. And you'd go through and they recognized, and what they liked about it, I think, is that they recognized their world and they recognized that I had paid some attention to their world. And then you do this story and they look at these towns in a way that they'd never thought of before. And it was just kind of a dirty little story about a guy that meets a girl and they have drinks and they have sex and et cetera. And then he finds out terrible things after that and all that. He wakes up the next morning and says, what did I do? And these towns help tell the story.
Yeah.
And I at one point, I think I had a stack of cards for probably 40 states.
Oh, wow. You had that many.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But then I quit doing clubs so much, and I worked a little more on cruise ships. You can make actually a better living on cruise ships. I never did more than about 10 weeks of cruise ships a year. I always had a lot of land gigs, but cruise ships was something to fill in. I just have an agent that would look at the schedule, and if he saw an empty week, he'd sometimes send me out on a cruise ship. So I did about 10 weeks a year on cruise ships, and I did that for 22 years. I quit doing that about 7 years ago. So.
You had a bit in there. It was yanked in South Dakota, and you would flip it. You go, and he yanked, and he yanked, and yanked, and
she grabbed hold, and she yanked, and yanked, and yanked, and.
I thought that was so funny.
And then she was there's a town in South Dakota called Chamberlain, which has a mile-long bridge over the Missouri River, and there's another town called Mobridge. And this is my favorite of the whole country. As I said, I woke up the next morning and she was, oh my God, she was huge. She was enormous. Her butt was so big. You know that bridge at Chamberlain, which is a mile long? If you was to try to take that bridge and span it across the crack of her ass, you'd need more bridge. That was probably my favorite of the whole thing.
Unless you lived there, it wouldn't be funny at all.
No, if you didn't live there, it's not funny at all. So, when we talked about coming and doing this, you remembered that, and I said, no, I'm not going to do that tonight because it's a very local thing.
Yes.
But for the people that live there, they used to really dig it.
And that's something that I tell comics. Comics, if you're an aspiring comic, especially if you're on the road, when you first start out in your show, go local. Acknowledge where you are. Let them know that it's important to you, that you're in their town, and that means something to you. It goes a long way in how you're perceived in being.
It does. You don't want to come in and act like you're above the crowd, or anything like that. You want to go in. You want these people to have a good time. You want them to feel at home, and you want them to feel like you have some respect for where they live.
Exactly.
Even when you don't.
In Yankton. Sounds good. So, if you were to give a comic advice. What kind of advice would you give either an aspiring comic or one that's been in for a while?
I'll tell you what. I love your series. I love your series because you encourage people to let it fly and not be constrained by the 90-year-old people in the back of the room that think that that's dirty. Yeah. I love what you're doing. Now, and I'm looking forward to tonight because most of the time I will do a G-rated show, and tonight I'm looking forward to, hey, you know what? These people have expressly given me permission not to worry about that, yes. And that's really very freeing, very liberating, and it's not something that happens every day. So, having said that, even Chris Rock advises young comedians to at least learn how to do a clean act. He said, yeah, it worked for me, and I got lucky, but it's not going to work for everybody. If you do a clean act, if you learn how to do a clean act, there'll be more people that will hire you, more places that you can work, and you will stay busier, and you will make a better living. You can always have that other stuff in reserve, but if you exclusively do blue material, then there's probably only one place you're going to work very much, and that's going to be in a comedy club. And you are going to miss out on the possibility of making a better living if you also know how to, like I said about the musicians, if you know how to play in more than one key.
Yes.
So
that's a great analogy.
When I realized that Chris Rock was counseling young comedians to at least have it in your bag, have it at least be one of the clubs that's in your bag, yeah. And know how to do a clean show when it's required, then you can go back to yourself and do the street stuff or whatever makes you feel like you're being true to yourself when you're in front of a crowd that is okay with that. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that would be my advice: is learn how to be flexible.
Yep.
Yeah.
Versatility and being able to call an audible in any show.
Yeah.
To be able to, switch hit, so to speak,
right.
during a show
right.
is very important. Even though my mantra is no censorship and all those things, I totally agree with you, as much as I hate to admit it, that having a clean show, like I'm about to do 2 shows on a cruise ship in Hawaii.
Yeah.
And I really don't know what I'm getting into, but I'm kind of known for being a dirty comic, and people are like, well, we're going to have fun watching you try to pull this shit off. But it's something that I can do. It's just something that I have to prepare for more.
Yeah.
But it's just part of this business. And you're right. You will make more money if you have the versatility to do more things.
Yeah.
You're right. So, well, to end this podcast, let's talk about this. Your special is called what? You've decided to name it?
I like to call it Wrong Side of Town because I think there's a lot of people that identify with that. I identify with that. I was born on the wrong side of town.
Where's that?
And I was born on the wrong side of Bloomington, Illinois.
Okay.
And Bloomington had an east side and a west side. And I was born on the west side, and that was the poorer side. And the kids from the east side didn't even know the names of the streets on my side of town, because why would you ever go there?
Right.
There is no need to know the names of the streets in that side of town over there. So and things are a little rougher on that side of town, and I think that's why you can't offend me. Very little can offend me, because I grew up with a lot of that stuff. Mm-hmm. If I may say, on the west side of town, how the fuck are you, asshole, is just how we said, good morning. So I was used to it.
Yeah.
I was used to it. And when I got into comedy, I realized that some of my material might be a little too vulgar, a little too earthy for the prim and proper people from the right side of town. And smart people, important people in the business pulled me aside and said, if you could learn how to do a clean act, you can still have that, but if you learn a clean act, there's more places you'll work. And I wanted to do that, and so I learned it, and I owe a lot to the world of clean comedy. I think it's important that I warn this audience tonight that shit ends now.
That's awesome. So tonight you're kind of pulling out some of those jokes from
some
the
of
wrong
that
side
stuff,
of town.
a lot of that stuff, that wrong side of town stuff that I put up on the shelf. Mm-hmm. You have given me permission to come and share with people tonight. So I will probably lose work as a result of this. I will probably lose work because there'll be somebody that will see this.
Oh, man.
And think, well, he's filthy. And, well, I hope it's funny, though, you know?
How do you feel about that? What if that were to happen? How do you feel about that?
I don't care.
Okay,
I don't care.
That's awesome.
It's come along at a time in my life where I guess I've, as Billy Crystal used to say, I've saved my nuts and berries, and if it hurts me, I could withstand it.
Good.
So and my son even reminded me, he said, you know, you always said you wanted to, someday you just wanted to go out and just do a dirty set. Because I used to have, I've got several bits that are particularly, I don't just throw the F word in there so that you can say it. Mm-hmm. I've got several bits that are actually about the F word. And I used to think a long time ago that they were clever enough that even though I was using a word that some people hated, that the bit itself was clever enough that they would see past that. And I eventually realized, no, I'm not going to be able to change some people's mind on that. But so they've been on the shelf for a long time. I've dusted them off, and I'm just looking for it. I know the kind of wide open crowd you get here, so I'm very, very eager to see what tonight brings.
Thank you for dusting them off and showing them to us. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
We have an audience that is trained since we've been filming here since 2022. They know what our mantra is, and they don't even need us for that because this comedy club is known for being a censorship-free zone anyway.
Okay.
But we have had, that being said, that's something that we can talk about is we have had comics on this platform be canceled after their specials came out, after their reels came out, because some gig that they had that they were purported to be clean for, the person that booked them for it or the person that hired them for it said, nope, we're not going to be hiring that guy because of this one bit. It's one bit. And it's not even something that's going to be done for that show.
Right.
Why would you cancel this guy? Why would you change his or her state of their income just over one fucking joke?
And one that they're not going to do for your people.
But here's what I love is these comics have stood up for the platform. I'm so grateful. They've stood up for everything that we stand for and have taken the sacrifice of losing the work over, calling me up and saying, hey, you got to pull that reel.
So the good side of town people, just this is from a part of the world that I'm sad to say you don't understand, you've never experienced, but it's where I grew up, and some of this stuff is funny to those of us who grew up over there. So we won't bring it to your side of town. We'll keep it over here, just among our little filthy cohorts. But some of this stuff makes us laugh.
Yeah, I think we'll have a lot of fans that will enjoy that too tonight.
Thanks.
Well, I appreciate you having the time to come during the day and film our podcast. Rex, you're going to kill it tonight.
Looking forward to it.
Watch Rex Haven's The Wrong Side of Town on the Open Bar Comedy Network, openbarcomedy.com, coming out in 2024.